Temporal agent is someone who works for the Temporal Bureau, and they're, I guess, time-travelling cop is one word for it. They possibly have to perform assassination duties and things like that at great personal cost to their own lives.
You accept that any diversion from your mission parameters will result in the immediate court-martial, and if convicted, death by lethal injection.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And so the Temporal Bureau is a combination between something like NASA and the CIA and some very, very black ops, highly secret government organisation. And also at the heart of it, it's a kind of detective agency as well. And they set out to correct situations that have happened and that will happen.
With the facial transplant, it was actually like as if Ethan's face maybe belonged to someone else originally and was then transplanted on. And then we could explain the difference in bone structures.
We kind of dubbed it the mini Frankenstein makeup. The whole idea that it had been, you know, different parts of skin grafted together and that the skin was different flesh tones. That was so much fun to paint.
It's actually a really exciting makeup for us because it's the first time we see Ethan's character in the film. What we're trying to basically say with this makeup is we're just trying to do a whole face transplant to help explain the transformation of an earlier stage of the character to this later stage. It's really challenging actually because we're trying to do something that's quite complicated. You know, we're completely covering his face with all this rubber, but at the same time we want it to be quite a subtle look. It's a full silicone makeup. There's a cowl piece, a separate forehead piece, separate little side areas here to make it look like all the little scars all join up and that sort of thing. And then we have more stitch marks that will go onto the neck. So yeah, it's a really, really cool makeup. It's a really good one to do. When we were working on the design, we were just looking at the different face transplants and how they're put together. And it's actually really amazing how once they heal, it looks incredible. Like it really looks like you know, like the person's own face. But there's just there's that asymmetrical aspect of it. So we tried to replicate that as well. So we've just put like a little prosthetic piece on this eyelid so that it won't open properly. So that just, you know, once he first opens his eyes, it's going to be a little bit asymmetrical. We've also got contact lenses. There was some of the lenses. Some of the inspirations for the lenses that inspired me were actually some cornea implants where they actually replace the cornea of the eye and actually have stitches in the eyeball. So we've got some lenses designed to actually have stitches around the iris, and he's going to be wearing those at the same time he's wearing all this. So he's really been put back together and reconstructed.
Love travels on a gravel road.
We are on our way.
When you describe it to people, it sounds so over the top. But then we need to design the makeup to make it look like it's completely natural, to make it look like we've done next to nothing.
I feel like I should talk slowly. I know, because you think I'm actually here, but I'm actually fine. And we're gonna go dancing later.
The most extreme things were going to be the scars around the head. But the whole rest of it was rubber. The whole rest of it was the sculpt. And we just needed to make all those elements look absolutely invisible on the day.
We wrap the bandages around you in a way that sort of reveals this area first.
Last.
First.
Okay, working with you guys is so exciting.
First. Yeah.
You do what it takes some getting used to.
Sub-Rockies is a beautiful set. It's very graphic, it's very clinical, it's quite ambiguous as to where you are, what period in time you are. Ethan's character, he's the only one in that scene that wears any colour or breaks out of the suits or the lab coats. So you actually can really pinpoint him as this is a man about to go on a journey.
You know, I alluded to the fact that there's many different photographic styles in this film. One of them is this set called the Sub-Rockies, which is a sort of futuristic stepping off point for our time-travelling characters. It's very clean, there's no smoke. The architecture is quite futuristic, and so we made the lighting quite futuristic.
We had to be quite resourceful with the things that we could build. As in Sub-Rockies, we had certain elements that we used to configure for one part of Sub-Rockies, but then sort of rejigged or reconfigured them to make two other different spaces inside the one complex.
Thinking about the processes that your body would go through from going from one time period to another, and the temporal travel and how that affects your body. And I kind of like to imagine it that it's like a massive compression chamber that your organs just suck in like that. In filming that and kind of generating that feeling, a lot of the time the camera would start and rolling, turn over, would spin around in circles, like make ourselves really, really dizzy, and then on action then drop onto our knees as if we'd just landed. And there's this kind of dynamic between the barkeep and the unmarried mother, of who's in power at what point, and who has the status and who has the hold over the other person, who's in more danger. And hopefully when the audience are watching it, they don't know at any point who does, because the unmarried mother can look a little bit freaky sometimes, and a little bit on edge, a little bit volatile, until they get taken down into the barkeep's lair downstairs. And then maybe it's the barkeep who has all the power.
Our time disruption footprint needs to be extremely small. The Bureau will allow for slight variations, but ultimately the parameters are extremely strict. Any deviation from the mission will result in termination. Okay?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, action!
We did physical effects that are very simple with a locked-off camera.
So what they would do is take a plate of the scene without us in it.
We would just move stuff towards where they were.
Peter did some of that sometimes. We'd get a leaf blower and blow bits of paper or curtains, and we would come in and perform our little dizzy dance, and the camera's rolling, and we'd drop in and join those two together as if we've just arrived.
And it's actually really super simple, but really effective.
You know, a movie that's designed to be deep or meaningful or something like that sometimes feels like it's teaching you and it's a little boring and is not what you want to do after a hard day's work. But if a movie can be simultaneously really entertaining and be about something, it can hit the bullseye for me.
Sadly, that was Ethan Hawke's I would really like to say thank you. I swear, this is the most amazing crew. I want to thank Peter and Michael for writing this amazing script and for putting all of you guys together. I've had such a great time. I hate leaving. Do a great job next week. Don't let the whole thing fall the fuck. All right? Okay. Listen to Sarah. She knows best.